And I think the big medical story, which actually suddenly, from nowhere, out of nowhere, suddenly unfolded yesterday, was this new abortion law, where, well, in fact, we basically scrapped our abortion laws. Now, you put my cards on the table. I'm pro-choice. I think women have the right to make their own decisions about their bodies, but only to a point where it's medically safe. And now it is considered medically safe in this country until 24 weeks. Actually, other countries have much shorter time spans. I think in America, of course, they banned it in quite a few states, but 13 states, I think. But some of the states that do allow it, it's 12 weeks.
No, they have 6 weeks. They have the heartbeat rule. 6 weeks.
How do you even know you're pregnant after 6 weeks? But you know what I mean. Anyway, it's 24 weeks here. So I'm prepared to go along with that. So my view on it is, as long as it's medically safe, a woman has the right to make the decision about what she wants to do. Now, the law that Labour got through yesterday, with no debate, came out of
2
nowhere.
hours.
Yeah. The public didn't know about it at all, was to basically abandon all laws. There's now no laws against when you can and cannot have an abortion. So it's to do with pills, isn't it, or something?
Well, it's not true that there's no laws. There still is the Abortion Act, and it still stands that you have to get 2 doctors to sign off your termination up to 24 weeks.
So what about after 24 weeks?
Well, what people don't realise,
Doctors won't sign off it, though. What then?
Well, what people don't realise is abortion is actually legal to term in this country and always has been since the 1967 Act. There are only 2 grounds of the 7 that have a 24-week limit on. The rest are limitless, and that's when there is a danger to the mother or the fetus's life, right, when there's a physical or mental disability. Now, very few...
Yeah, of course, if it's medical, that's fine.
Well, it's mental as well.
Okay. What do you mean by mental?
Well, if
it's a...
You could argue that if the
mentally challenged...
If the mother was going to throw herself off a building, if she was, you could argue this.
Okay.
There have been very late abortions. There was a very famous one up to 37 weeks for cleft palate,
right,
which I do not find acceptable because cleft palate is a perfectly fixable condition. What they've done is, if you had an abortion at any stage in your pregnancy outside of this legislation, so you didn't go through 2 doctors, you didn't do it in that way, or if when you were over 9 weeks pregnant, because that's the limit for pills, if you were over 9 weeks pregnant, if you lied over the phone and said you were later, that would be criminal. And there have been some prosecutions for this. So what Labour did is they said, we're going to get rid of the criminalisation. So although we still have the rules around abortion, if you break those rules, you'll no longer be pursued by the police and put in prison.
So what happens if a woman changes her mind at 6 months or something, or even later, and goes about getting rid of the baby,
on her own accord?
Yeah, I mean that's what it's all about. There's no laws to stop her doing that.
So she can.
That's the point. That's the point, isn't it?
That's the point. So she can now do that however she does it. Without
that's not good, is it?
No, I don't think
it doesn't strike. So that's my point. Not that many women who are 6 months pregnant that go, I changed my mind. But there will be, and it often, disconcertingly, it might not be the woman whose mind is being changed. But my point is, what we did yesterday, or what the Parliament did, what the Labour majority did, was to dispense with, to get rid of legal deterrence. Deterrence for women who feel like, or for whatever reason, want to terminate their...
We actually opened the back door to backstreet abortions again. That's what we did. Yeah. So that people can go somewhere and say, I don't want to be pregnant. What's worrying about this is, firstly, Labour voted down an amendment that said that if you wanted abortion pills, you could no longer do it over the phone. You had to have a face-to-face meeting, which I think is completely reasonable. Yeah. They voted that down. So this will still continue to be done by phone. What I worry about here is there could be a child at the end of that phone who is being made by her abuser to make the phone call and get the pills. Right. There could be a family who have decided they only want a boy. They've had their 20 to 24 week scan. It's a girl. and they decide to terminate that baby. There could be a woman who's trapped in domestic violence, or there could be a man who uses a woman to get the pills and he then forcibly gives them to her.
Yeah. So I mean, the point is, we decriminalised all forms of abortion yesterday. So
I thought this would not pass.
You see, I'll tell you why I think it passed. I mean, there's clearly, it was introduced by a Labour backbencher, but it was clearly a sort of Labour whip.
But they said they didn't whip it. They said it was a vote of conscience.
Yeah, no. It was a Labour whip, if you ask me. And it's because there's such a vast Labour majority, and so many of those Labour women. For them, this is a women's rights issue. Now, abortion is a women's rights issue, quite rightly, but you can take that too far.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the law was fine as it was.
Yeah. So why did we do it?
I mean, I am torn in that when you prosecute a woman who, for whatever reasons, terminates a baby at 6 months, and she was prosecuted and taken away from her children at home, I'm not sure that serves anyone anything. So I was very torn over this, but when I think it all through and what it's actually done, I think it's a dangerous change.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just that I think that as a civilized nation we should have legal deterrence. I mean, the fact that you've got laws saying, well, if you try and get rid of your baby after 24 weeks, you'll end up in jail. I mean, very few women are going to try and do that anyway.
It's minuscule.
And you know, to be honest with you, as long as it's successful, the chances of them getting caught are quite slim as well. But it isn't the point. It's kind of almost symbolic. You know, to just say now in this country, in whatever way you know, if you can get rid of your baby at 8 months, that's fine by us. Well, it shouldn't be, should it?
It shouldn't be. And I think what's really worrying about this is we've got a Labour Party now who seem to love death. They're going to be the party of death.
As in the death of the country, yeah.
Well, the death of the country, the death of babies now without any ramification.
I like that.
And the death of old people with their assisted suicide bill. Everything they're doing is to encourage death.
Yeah, that is interesting. You're right. Yeah, I just think that I suspect this new legislation is the result of a twisted approach to women's rights. Somehow or other they think women should be able to make these decisions. Look, let's get this real. After 24 weeks, not that many women will decide to get rid of their pregnancies. Not that many women after 24 months will find themselves in a position where men or their families want them to ditch their kids, because if they're that kind of woman in that kind of that will be before 24 weeks anyway. So this is going to be rare. But to now have a system whereby essentially this state, the state of Britain, says to women, you know, whenever, however you want to get rid of a baby, there's no laws, there's no comeback. I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous too. And look, you're going to have women who order these pills when they're far too far ahead for it. Who knows what it will do to them medically, and they may not lose their pregnancy, but it may cause damage to the baby. You're going to get people who open up clinics to help people abort their babies. Look, abortion has gone on forever. People go to backstreet abortions. When you ban abortion, more women die because they go to backstreet abortionists. So there needs to be a nice balance somewhere in between, and the balance, I think, was the law as it stood.
Yeah, so I mean, now if somebody did want to get to, you know, 30 weeks, 35 weeks, whatever, wanted to get a backstreet abortion, there'd be no comeback on it. And that should be discouraged. I think that's kind of wrong. This isn't an issue of pro-life, pro-choice. I mean, I happen to be pro-choice. I think you're pro-choice. This is an issue of, you know, safety, and I think almost decency, really. You know, we should have laws to stop bad things. And if women are going about whatever way they go about it, you know, deciding to DIY abort their kids at 30 weeks, 35 weeks, and there's no deterrent, that's not a good thing, I don't think. You let me know what you think, folks. 0344 499 1000. You want to say one more thing?
I'm assuming that it's going to have to go through the House of Lords.
Oh, well, that doesn't make any difference.
I don't know. I think it might meet some
Yeah, but but the House of Lords can't stop it in the end. That was a big majority it got. The House of Lords. Well, don't forget they've got the bien pensant liberal elite pack out that upper chamber, so they'll probably go with what Labour voted.
But they do have the clergy,
Yeah,
26 of them who vote together.
Yeah, but they can't stop it in the end. This will go through because it was a big majority, and I think although it wasn't an official whip, Labour want it. But a good point. It'll be interesting when it gets to the House of Lords, but they don't these days ever really succeed in stopping a law.
Well, they stopped the Rwanda bill for long enough.
Yeah, but they didn't in the end, did they? They didn't in the end. Yeah, they'll delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always could delay, and they used to be able to stop. They can't stop anymore, so that's the point. Let's talk about something you alerted to me, and it actually fits in with a story I did the other day with Isabel Oakeshott. Well, tell us about the new open door policy at Chesterfield Royal Hospital.
Yeah, I mean, somebody sent this to me, and it's from the 1st of June. Pregnant people, that was my first objection to this. Pregnant people who do not speak English as their first language can now access maternity birth centres from 20 weeks of pregnancy without having to make an appointment or phone first. So they're going to have a special sticker added to their notes at the booking or first scan to show their preferred language and to help them through. Now, I'm all for us helping people give birth safely. It still is the most dangerous thing a woman ever does. But I'm so tired of this. Pregnant people, number one. There's only women that get pregnant.
I'm going to pick you up on that. I don't think it's the most dangerous thing they ever do. I think the most dangerous thing a woman ever does is walk down the Earl's Court Road. But carry on.
We can argue that one out with stats. And I'm sick and tired. Here we go. We've got British-speaking people to the back of the queue. You have to phone and make an appointment, but if you don't speak English, you can just walk straight in. Now, I get it. It's hard to make a phone call in English if you don't speak it, but that's not my fault if I'm a pregnant woman who does speak English and might want an appointment without having to phone.
And please, Chesterfield Royal Hospital, why pregnant people? I think what you mean is women who are pregnant women. Well, men can't get pregnant, you see. You're a hospital. I thought you might have known that.
But it's all in that last sentence, isn't it? DMNV, which is their group name, is proud to support inclusive maternity care across Derbyshire.
Yeah, but blokes don't need maternity care. Just another little tip for you. I did a story with Isabel Oakeshott the other day, similar kind of thing, and it was Cumbria, and they had this sort of priority system for asylum seekers. Asylum seekers who've come to the Cumbria area essentially can go straight to they can get a GP right off the bat. They can get dentist right off the bat, where the local residents can't.
That's happening in London. So I worked at a practice as a locum where they have a hotel right next door, more or less. And the manager was telling me that they could no longer service their audience because the manager from the hotel would be at the front door every morning before they opened. As soon as they opened, they'd have 20 new residents to register. That takes a receptionist 2 days because they've got all new forms. And half of those, if not 3/4, want to see a GP that day. It's a double appointment because they don't speak English, and that's all of the day's appointments gone. Yeah.
So this is the medical side of Kia's two-tier Britain. That all over, I cited the Cumbria case here we've got the Chesterfield General Hospital. The asylum seekers, migrants, often people who've broken into this country illegally, they're billeted in hotels all over the country.
Who have never paid a penny.
Yeah, they've never paid a penny in tax for the NHS or anything. They're immediately put to the top of the queue, the head of the queue, for GPs. I mean, there are people all over the country who are desperate to even manage to register with their local GP because their local GP say, we're full up, we can't take any more patients. But if you're an asylum seeker, someone who can't speak English, bang, you're in there. They're immediate GP. They get plus, they'll see you right away. They'll see you. Asylum seekers are having no trouble getting NHS dental treatment. Most British citizens, that's a kind of almost an impossible dream these days.
It is, and bear in mind, let's think about the GP here as well. So first of all, I can tell you that doing consults via language line are disgustingly bad. because you can't get, you know, you might get an answer from the patient that lasts 2 minutes and the person on the other end of the phone says, oh, she said yes. And you're like, oh, no, she didn't say yes. So you can't get it, and you can't get that nuance that you get from a patient. And also, you've got people in front of you, you have no medical history, you don't know what you're dealing with. It's really hard.
Yeah, and, you know, it's a recipe for a great deal of unrest around the country. That, you know, and the problem with the NHS, must be so many of you out there who know what I'm talking about here. You can't get to see a GP, you can't get treatment to the hospital, you get on a waiting list for hours or days and months and years. Ridiculous. Whereas if you're an asylum seeker, you're in there straight away. The prioritisation of the welfare of foreigners, many of whom broke into this country illegally, over British citizens who paid their taxes, who paid for the NHS. The NHS, along with so many other sections of British society, needs to take a look at itself. I'm not saying, you know, we landed with these asylums, so they're here. You know, we can't just let them get sick and die. They've got to be treated, but they must not be prioritised over British citizens, the people who pay for the NHS. And there are so many examples of what you've given me there. As I say, Cumbria, same thing, always the same language, you know, pregnant people and, you know, our foreign friends and all this kind of stuff. It's just not right.